and welcome to a new RACC IT Podcast. The place where we put companies, peoples, their challenges, their dreams in the spotlight. I will have the chance to talk with very great minds, professionals, specialists, entrepreneurs who might have the same challenge and might have already found the same solution as you. I'm Csaba Demeter, the host of this podcast series for RACC IT, and I'm glad that I will have today the chance to sit down and dialogue with Mihai Ionescu. Mihai Ionescu, who is the CEO and founder of Blackshell. Maybe you heard about Blackshell. If you're not, it's a good time to check them out. Who are they and what they do and what can they do for you? Blackshell is a Romanian cybersecurity company. I did my research, but I think Mihai is the best person to present to you and to explain you what is Blackshell and what is Mihai Ionescu doing in Blackshell. Hello, Mihai, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Well, thank you so much. And where do I even start? I'll start with myself. I think that's just a lot easier because I've been doing it for a lot longer. I'm a software developer, so that's how I would start. I'm an engineer. I like building cool things. I like writing code. I don't do that much these days. But yeah, I'm a software engineer, but it took me a while to get here. I started out with coding, I think when I was 4th grade, 5th grade.
Wow.
I was one of those kids, always going to all the contests and doing extra homework and all that. And then when I went to uni, I actually did something super different. I did philosophy, politics, and economics in London, where I've been living on and off for, I think, the past 10 years. If you've watched The Avengers, I think it's, destiny, it still arrives. So after all that, I somehow ended up being a software engineer, working for a company that was building, I think, the biggest digital privacy products in the world. Things like password managers, VPNs, private browsers, the sort of things that you use to protect yourself on the internet, which I'm a huge fan of. Mm-hmm. And 2 years ago, when I was still working at that company, I started seeing what I would call a gap in the cybersecurity market. I saw what I think is a fundamental shift in the way that cybersecurity works. I think it's changing from being something that only enterprises and big companies cared about. Going back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd have the General Electrics, you'd have the JP Morgans, they would care about that. So everybody built products for them. And now we're back to the future. It's 2025, and smaller companies, they're being affected by cyber attacks. They're relying on cyber security to basically protect their business and allow them to operate and do what they're doing. And I think the market has not served them well. I think in terms of products and services for those companies, they've been overlooked for a lot of time, which makes a lot of sense. But now they need those products, and Blackshell is what we started to fix this problem. I mentioned I'm an economist, so when I see a market gap, I try to fill it. We're based in Bucharest. We've got a registered entity in the UK. So what we do is we build cybersecurity products for SMEs, mostly European SMEs these days. And we build them in a way so that it's accessible, it's easy to implement, it's easy to understand, and it fits their needs and not the needs of a big enterprise company that has completely different problems than they have. We're sort of coasting on a lot of European regulation that's been happening in the past years. NIS2, which is forcing those companies to get those tools. And it's been going great. We've got a wonderful team. I'm by far the least smart person in that team. So any tough questions, I'll just redirect them to them after this.
We'll deal with it nevertheless, Mihai, I'm sure about that. I was very impressed when I researched a little bit about you and discussing, prepping this podcast with you, that you were probably one of the biggest startups in Southeastern Europe with pre-seeds when you launched. Pre-seed funding, of course.
Yeah, when we launched this, what we had was expertise. We didn't really have a product. We saw this market gap. We saw, the fact that those companies need cybersecurity and someone will provide it to them, whether it's us or someone else. And the bet was that the market is going to grow, so we raised money for that. There's a lot of appetite for investors to invest in cybersecurity these days. It's sort of I think, probably the hidden gem of technology right now. Everybody's thinking about AI and how AI is changing things. So whenever you go to all the conferences, everybody's building AI this, AI that. But I think cybersecurity is actually the one that's drawing the most attention from the people that matter. Mm-hmm. And there's many reasons for that. part of it is it's related to national security and making sure that, like in case of an attack, your essential companies can still function and work, your public institutions, your like your hospitals, your schools. So there was a lot of appetite for this back then. We managed to raise quite a lot of money, and we've been using that money for development, going to market, selling to customers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's quite a challenge, and I think it was. And also, I believe that also brought to you where are you now, open to multiple markets, not only in Europe. Tell me about that. What is to be a Romanian cybersecurity company working on different markets?
So what I think is interesting is we're one of the few Romanian companies that build products. So if you look at cybersecurity, there's plenty of companies that do services, but when it comes to products, there's some super amazing players. Like here in Romania, we've got Bitdefender, for example, amazing company, but there's not that many. So for us, we're benefiting a lot from the fact that, like Romania has this sort of reputation for pumping out good programmers, good engineers, having, like smart people who go on and build good things for companies here and abroad. So I think it's been an advantage, and I think it's also been an advantage being part of the EU because of all the regulation and everything. It means that what we're building is up to standard on so many things. But yeah, it makes me proud. We've got a super amazing team. Everybody in the team is actually Romanian, but everybody has studied abroad and has returned to the country, which I think is an amazing accomplishment for them. Like going out there, seeing all the cool things and then deciding to come back home and build something in the country is, I think, amazing. So yeah, it's good.
What does it take to have the courage to go out of Romania and to be present in different markets and even outside of EU?
I think eventually I've never thought about it that way actually in terms of courage. It's just something that I think you have to do at some point. For us, like one example is the US. When it comes to cybersecurity, if you look at it, most companies, they're based in one of two places. It's either the US or it's Israel. And most of them are actually connected. It's Israeli companies that have moved to the US. So naturally, if you're a cybersecurity company, you want to go there at some point. And I think there's good reasons for that. The first one is it's a market that you don't have to escape. Mm-hmm. Romania, like I love the companies here, I love the people here, but eventually it gets super saturated super quickly. And that's because we're a smaller company with a lower number of companies. So you have to go somewhere else. The US, if you make it there, you don't necessarily have to get out of the US at any point. The other, I think, advantage to being in those markets is that the companies there, they're a lot more competitive. So if you shine there, that means you're going to shine everywhere you go. So going to other places like, again, the US, for us, the UK, France, Germany, it helps a lot because we see what other people are building. We're expanding our horizons. It opens up access to capital, people, makes recruitment a lot easier if you want to expand there. And many of those countries, they also have a strong cybersecurity culture. France comes to mind with this. So you go there, companies already know what you're selling to them. So it's a lot easier to work your way through them.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that cybersecurity in the era of AI, it's a hidden gem. I talked with you and looked up your company, and you're a very smart person and a very good company working in cybersecurity. But probably you have also competitors in the market, even in the markets where you want to enter or you already entered. What makes you different? What are your differentiators?
So most of those companies, the big ones, they've started 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, which is great, but it's also super slow. If you think about it, building something new in such a company is a lot harder. There's a lot of stuff that you need to get moving internally to push a project to the point where you can actually sell it to people. What we've done is we've looked at what European companies, first and foremost, and then some other companies around the world, but mostly SMEs here in Europe, what they need in terms of cybersecurity, and we try to be super honest with ourselves. I come from a place where we were selling digital privacy tools to B2C consumers. Those people, they're not tech experts. We needed to sell something that was easy to use. So we were selling for the VPN, it was one button. You click the button, you get connected, and that's it. So we tried to do the same thing here. And I think what sets us apart is that we've actually looked at what the companies here need. We've sort of simplified the whole experience. Our customers, they're not the kind of people that those giants would sell to. They're the kind of people who sometimes don't even have a proper security team. We're lucky if they have an IT team that knows a bit of security. And that's the reality for most companies in Europe. And in the US too, by the way. They're not security experts. So we don't build tools for security experts. We build tools for companies that are trying not to hire security experts.
When you talk, I look into your eyes, and it started to shine a little bit more than at the beginning of this podcast. It's because you're passionate about. Bet that you have good stories, without breaching NDA terms. In the era of AI, I think cybersecurity. Cybersecurity. It's more or less due to the fact that we have internet and their digitalization, which is widespread, and the pandemic already accelerated this process in multiple countries, including Romania and Europe and US and so on and so on. But also having AI, and I was having a discussion at one point with somebody who was working with AI and programming and so on. And he said to me, don't even think asking what's going to be happening in 5 months, because I don't know. Yeah. What is the ecosystem of cybersecurity in the era of AI? What are your biggest challenges?
So when I say this, people, they give me this weird look when I say it, but I actually think AI is mostly bad for cybersecurity right now. It's good in the sense that it's creating a lot of business for us because it's creating a whole load of vulnerabilities for customers, but it's not good for the people who are using it. And I don't think it's going to be like that forever. I think it's going to be great in a couple of years, but right now it's doing a lot more for the bad guys than it is for the good guys. And there's good reasons for everything. In this case, for example, think about it. When you're writing a feature using AI and you have to ship it to millions of customers, that feature needs to get through quality control. It needs to be tested. You need to find all the edge cases, and you need to make sure that it actually works. If I'm selling you something and I tell you it works 60% of the time, you're not going to buy it, right? You want 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
Now think about it. If you're a hacker, so you're a hacker, you're hacking companies. You've got 1,000 companies and you're using AI to hack those companies. It only works 60% of the time. That's still good. It's a lot more than, no AI. So what I'm trying to say is it's a lot easier for those people to use AI in ways in which companies are struggling to implement in production-grade projects. The other problem is there's a lot of implications around, like data mismanagement and those tools scraping a lot of internal data. And we've actually seen companies using AI and willingly giving those AI providers data on their customers, their revenues, their security issues within the company. I've seen security teams just paste incidents into ChatGPT, which is amazing in the bad way because it puts all that
Even
information.
if the ChatGPT is a paid one and you click that thing that you don't train yourself on my data?
So this is a matter of trust. Do you trust OpenAI with this? So I actually had to answer this question a lot in my previous job because we were selling VPNs and people always asked, how can we know you're not actually selling our data to the wrong people? And I think the problem is you need to look at the company and ask yourself, what reason is there for me to trust that when I click that button, it does what it says it does? And there's ways around this. So you can deploy those models in your network, on your hardware, on your infrastructure, and then some of those problems go away. But that's hard to do. It's not something that a flower shop or maybe a grocery store is going to do. They're just going to go into ChatGPT and just write it there. And the problem is it's also letting people who should not be coding production-grade applications push code into production that's unmaintainable and full of security issues. Code, this is going off a tangent into how we write applications, but when you write an application, there's things to look out for. And those models, they don't look out for those things. The code they write sometimes doesn't even get reviewed by the right people. And this code changes a lot. Instead of writing code from scratch, you fit it into ChatGPT, it gives you something. Copy, paste, replace, and so on. So you never actually know what you're writing and what you're doing, which to me as a security expert, that's just bad. It's super bad because there's no way for you to verify that what you have there is actually secure and, is protecting your users and your company and your data and your money and everything.
You're already hinting to some of the needs of your customers you are solving at Blackshell. Could you just point out what are the most important needs in terms of the companies you work with? You work to B2B mostly.
Yeah.
What needs do you cover now, and what do you plan to do in the future?
So I think security is, you've got a whole spectrum. So you go from 0 to 100, and then you've got so many directions where you can go because security is such a huge area. There's so many products, they all do different things. You could have physical security, you could have software security, you could have application scanning. What we try to do is we try to find those things that a small company could actually use. Because the small companies, they don't have infrastructure, they don't have servers, they have what? Computers, printers, routers, video cameras, smart lights, those things.
Smartphones.
So we built 2 products. One of them is let's call it a network security product that secures the way you connect to company resources and then adds a bunch of compliance stuff on top of that. I'll get to that in a second. The other one is something that you use to scan your whole infrastructure for vulnerabilities. So right now we're surrounded by hundreds of things. Cameras, lights, everything. Those things, they're computers. So they could be exploited. And you were actually mentioning an example with I think it was with your daughter, where you were correctly pointing out that if something gets compromised, you can just move to the other device through the network. So what we do is we scan those things for issues and we show you a list of everything that's wrong. And then you can decide how to fix that. We also offer assistance in helping those companies that need to fix those problems. And everything we do has a huge compliance element. I'm not sure if you've seen them, but in Romania, they've started asking for cybersecurity compliance checks when you're getting insurance, for example, or when you're trying to get a bank loan. You go in, they ask you, do you have a firewall? Do you have a VPN? Do you do like pen testing and audits and all that? You can imagine what the answer is for most companies. Like most of them have no idea what those words even mean. So what we do is we try to package them into something easy to use, install, and then give you everything you need in terms of reporting to actually prove to the company or insurer, bank, whoever, that you're working with someone to fix your problems. And in the future, more AI, maybe, once it gets to the point where we can use that in a way that's not just a buzzword and actually helps protect customers.
You talk and you work and you collaborate and you sign contracts with multiple companies. If in your word in SMEs, you don't need just 5, the big ones, big companies on the world. You need numbers there behind your success. There's probably, I'm guessing, I know it's very dangerous sometimes to do the guesswork, that you have quite some experience in different incidents.
Yes.
What are the most common incidents you face in your activity? And of course, without bitching about it and saying things which are under contract.
Yep.
Could you give us some examples of that?
So most attacks that happen, they're not very sophisticated. Those things happen, but when it's something super sophisticated, it's usually done by government actors, by like foreign countries. Most companies, they don't get attacked by those countries or those actors. They get attacked by hacker farms in some weird basement that are just mass targeting as many people as they can. So for example, the WhatsApp incidents that have been happening in Romania, where you get a message on your phone and it asks you to vote somewhere, you plug in a code in your phone and they get control over your device. Those are actually quite easy to avoid because those messages, they're suspicious. They look weird to you. When you look at them, it just sounds off, but you still click on it because it's coming from someone who's trusted. It's coming from one of your friends, your family. So maybe what you could do is just call them, get them on the phone, see them face to face. It's funny because I'm seeing companies actually implement face-to-face only decisions for things that are critical to the company. For example, bank payments. I've seen companies implement this policy where the person making the transfer has to be there in person, because otherwise you cannot guarantee their identity. But there's ways to go about it. And I think most attacks that we've seen, they're not super complicated. Training people and making sure that people, they're not afraid to ask the questions when they see something fishy. That's, I think, the number one thing. I've had this happen in my company with people, external people, trying to impersonate me and trying to message people from Blackshell, pretending they're reaching out. And there's ways to prevent those, and we have them in place. But at the end of the day, nobody fell for that because people knew what to expect and what to look out for. There's tools you can buy. Our tools help with that. Other tools on the market help with that. But I think the human element is where you see the most mistakes. Also, I think pride and trying to pretend like you know how to solve all the problems in the world is something that gets a lot of people. One thing you realize in cybersecurity quite easily is that you know nothing. It's such a huge and vast area of different industries and different tools and different practices. It's super difficult to know everything that goes on. And we accept that, but some of our customers, they don't actually accept that. We've had this incident, which was super interesting, with a company. Their website got hacked. They were not a client. We were trying to use their website to order something. Their website got hacked, so we saw that. Mm-hmm. We looked at the page when instead of giving you some other information, when you clicked on a button, it downloaded something, asked you to run the thing. If you ran the thing, your computer was compromised. It basically locked up everything and held you at ransom, trying to get money out of you. So we contacted them and we said, look, we're a cybersecurity company. We just saw this on your website. You have to do something about it. By the way, you also have to inform, the national institutions. Depending on the company, you have to tell the authorities that this is happening. And we basically said, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just letting you know we're doing our duty. If you do need help with this, we can help. And we got this message saying, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we fixed it. It's all good. So we looked on the website. It was fixed. One day after, we go back on the website. It's back there. So we send them another message. They say, yeah, it came back. We have no idea why. We know why. It's because their backups that they've been using to restore were also compromised. So whenever they were, wiping the thing, it would come back to them. We asked again, do you need help with this? Nah, we're good. So then the third time it happened, we called them again, wrote another email, and they actually accused us of planting the ransomware there to get them as a client. Mm-hmm. Wow. Which was a super weird experience because we were trying to help, but I also try, putting myself in their shoes, random cybersecurity company tells you about it, it's a bit fishy. But the truth was that we told them because we were probably the only ones who realized what was happening. Everybody else was getting infected when they were browsing the website. So I think knowing that you're not a security expert and you don't have to be a security expert and asking for help helps.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely makes your life very complicated and not boring at all.
No.
Not at all, no. Right? Coming back to your company and the fact that you are a member of RACC IT, you decided to join RACC IT at one point. What was the tipping point? What made you to make this decision?
I think most people, I'm not trying to guess how many, but I'd say a big percentage of people who are part of RACC IT, they're there because they're trying to breach the US markets and they're trying to build relationships in the US and they're trying to sell their products there and build something for the US markets. So on that front, it's an amazing place to be because the people who come to those events, they're usually heavily invested or linked in some way with US markets, US companies, US people. So it helps you a lot with that. And that's actually how we joined. I told you
we got invited, eh?
We got invited, yeah. So I was telling someone about Blackshell and I mentioned our US expansion plans and they said, I know these guys and they do events and workshops and they bring people together. Would you be interested? So attended one of the events, immediately became a member because I actually think what they provide is useful. I think one thing that we struggle with in Romania compared to other countries is creating those places where smart people meet and try to get things done. this is something I've seen a lot in London. It's something I've seen a lot in the US, but it's not something I used to see a lot in Romania up until maybe 3-4 years ago. I think we're getting there. I think I'm actually impressed by how quickly things are moving and how much people have become so, business oriented and trying to get things done. But I still think one of the challenges is finding the places where those people meet and exchange ideas with each other, build relationships. And I think this is just that. Like, if you ask me, for me, I think moving the company to the US and reaching the US market is amazing. And it's the goal of many companies. And as I told you, it's a market where you want to go because that's where, you shine and everybody likes you and you grow your business. But for me, I think what RACC IT does best is bring people together with a shared passion for performance, for trying to get things moving, for doing something, whatever it is, building something, selling something, trying to, and it's very much...
It's an enabler.
Yeah, it is an enabler. Yeah, it gives you the place where you can shine, and it's up to you.
You must have future plans. I'm not pushing you to say some secrets what you're already planning, but maybe you can shed a little bit of light of what are your plans for the future as a company and where are you going forward?
Goal is in 3 years, 4 years, we're going to be the #1 household name on cybersecurity tech for SMEs. So when you think of cybersecurity for SMEs, I want Blackshell to be top of mind. Whatever it is, VPNs, firewalls, compliance, we want to be the company that's building the products that work for you and not against you. In terms of where we want to do that, we've actually had this, I wouldn't call it a change of plans because it was always part of the plan, but Europe has become a lot more attractive in the past year. There is, with everything that's happening in the world, there is a lot of merit to being a European company building European cybersecurity for European companies. We're extremely proud about that. We think Europe needs a lot of cybersecurity, so there's a lot to be done in terms of providing those products. And you see all the countries moving towards, like EU-made products and EU-built products. Tariffs, they're affecting that because everything coming in is going to be more expensive. So we're building a lot for countries in Europe. Europe is a big market. Those countries here, they're also under something called NIS2, which is a big piece of legislation that's enforcing some of the products that we're building in those companies. But the plan is to eventually expand out of Europe. And again, the US is definitely a place to be as a security company. It gives you credibility, it gives you competition, it gives you customers.
What do you think? You are part of this ecosystem of cybersecurity companies in Romania and globally also. What do you think is there, those companies who are in your sector, is their most important challenge nowadays?
I think if you ask me that every week, I might give you a different answer. But I think those answers have things in common. I'll give you one and then I'll think about giving you another one.
Please.
The one that we've been struggling the most with is lack of ownership over cybersecurity in companies in Europe and the US and many other places. People think cybersecurity is an IT issue. It's not. IT people, generally speaking, they're not security people. Software developers, they're not security people. When people write code, security is not always the thing they think about. So it's not a software issue, it's not an IT issue. What is it? It is a management issue because when cybersecurity fails, your company fails. It's a showstopper. Your services don't work, your company dies. Your data gets leaked, you get sued. Depending where you are, you might even go to prison for that. So it is a management problem. Now, the problem is that management is usually made out of CEOs and CTOs and CFOs who they look at the financial impact, which is super hard to quantify because unless you get hacked, there's no way to know how much it's going to cost you. It's sort of like insurance, you buy the insurance, but you're not sure if it helped you or not because you never hit the car. So was it worth it? Probably not. So the problem is there is a very small number of companies in Europe that have information security officer or even an information officer. There is a lack of governance in those companies in terms of cybersecurity. So when we go out and sell our products,
regardless of their size,
regardless of the size, well, once you get to a certain point, you need to have those people. So if you're a huge enterprise listed on the stock exchange and all that, you have to have those people for regulatory reasons. But you can still be a 100 million company and not have those people, not have a security team, not have an IT team. And by the way, IT people, they hate us because we go in, we find problems, they think we're pointing at them, which we're not, because it's not their fault those things are happening. So we usually get bounced around from IT to management. Management doesn't understand what we do. IT doesn't like us. So that's one of the challenges that we've had. I've talked to many people in Romania. They're struggling with the same thing. It's slowly becoming better with European directives and everything, but it's going to take a while. There's plenty of other challenges, though. It's one of those things, as I said, that's super hard to quantify. It's non-core to your company. You can run a company without cybersecurity. You could be super successful and make a lot of money with no cybersecurity in place, and you might never get attacked. So when you looked at it...
Nowadays, it's less and less probable that you will not be in a target list at one point. But
people don't always realize this. So it's one of those things where you go in and you ask them to pay a lot of money for something that they're having trouble fitting into their budget because they're not sure how much money it saves them. It usually doesn't save them money in the short run. So you have to build a super strong business case for them to buy your products. So it teaches you a lot. It's one of those industries where if you can sell here, you can sell anywhere. Because you're selling something that people don't understand. They cannot value properly because they don't have the mental models to do that and the data for quantifying how much money it can save them. That's usually quite expensive, especially enterprise grade. Cybersecurity can get very expensive, and the reason is it's impossible to get you 100% security. So you can always just buy another thing and another and another, and you end up spending millions of dollars on tools, and then someone attacks you using a different type of attack that's not covered by those. You look at it, you're like, okay, why did I spend the money on this?
Well, yes, but it can silently prevent other ones which... because you're secured and your systems are secured, not happening. You're also mentioning that for a hacker, for example, a 60% success rate.
That's how I sell it.
Yeah.
That's how I sell it. That's what I say. But you also have to bring in the numbers. Mm-hmm. You need to tell them how much you're blocking and all that.
You went out from Romania from other markets also. You have companies, clients on different markets, European and so on. What you learned doing this? What you would like to pass on to other entrepreneurs in your sector or in IT generally from Romania, which could be benefiting them to not necessarily avoid some things, but maybe fast track their success?
I'll say two things. First of all, different countries have different cultures and different ways of doing things. One of my favorite findings when I was in my previous company was we were looking over some payments flow data. We were running experiments to see how do we make someone, once they land on the website, how do we make them pay for the product? And we realized most people, they want the checkout to be as simple as possible. One page if possible, you put in your card. If we don't ask for an email, even better. So, yeah, perfect, you say that. But then
I work also in marketing, and that's my focus at the moment. So for marketeers, the less friction with the user, the better.
So you're going to love this. This is 100% true for every country where we were doing the A/B testing and the experiments, except Germany. In Germany, they wanted as many pages as we could fit. If it was just one page, our assumption was that they thought it was insecure or we were a scam or something. They felt safer when they had multiple pages for the checkout, which to me was super counterintuitive. I wanted to be as quick as possible. So what I'm saying is you need to run those experiments, you need to talk to people, you need to understand how those countries are different. France has an amazing cybersecurity culture compared to many other countries in the region. You move one country up, you don't see that anymore. So those things, they matter and they will affect your positioning. I think that one thing that matters even more is finding the right partners. Because if you're a company based in Eastern Europe, it might be a bit harder for you to actually be on the ground and talk to people and spend time with customers in Germany or France or the UK or even the US. And this is how we sort of get back to RACC IT, because you find the right partners here, you find the right people to help you develop that side of the business, and it's going to be a lot easier. because now you don't have to be there all the time. You still have to, but it's easier. So the right partners I think are key when you're doing any sort of international expansion.
Closing towards the end, we are not finished yet. We're just closing in towards the end of the podcast. I still have some other questions, but before I bring that to you, until now, is there a subject regarding cybersecurity, regarding your company, which you would love to talk and we didn't brought up yet?
Oh, I can talk a lot. So there's many things I love about it. But I think for the general audience, I think what we touched upon was great. If there's anything you'd like to ask on this, in terms of, again, like I've got many hats. I can go into like the engineering side of things and what I like, because writing code for a cybersecurity company is a bit different than writing code for an e-commerce platform, for example.
Why?
Well, because
you have on both ends customers, right?
You do. But think about it. If you're an e-commerce platform and you get hacked, okay. If you're a cybersecurity company and you get hacked, you catch a lot of flack from that. Going back to CrowdStrike and what happened 2 years ago, the shocking thing about that was not that it happened, it was that it happened to CrowdStrike. The general thing people said was they should have known better. Mm-hmm. And we're held to the same standard when we're a cybersecurity company. We need to make sure that the code we write is secure. We need to make sure that it does what it needs to do. And the things that we do are actually quite complicated. Because again, we're doing security. Some of the lower level stuff requires very expert knowledge on the things we're building. So you definitely have to pay a lot more attention to things like secure coding practices, scanning your code, scanning your applications. And this is a lot better now for me, by the way. Going back to the previous company, we were building privacy tools for people, so we didn't even have proper logging for most of the things we did. Something crashed, we cannot see what crashed, because that would mean logging what you were doing on the app, which goes against the thing we were selling. So it forces you to be super imaginative in the ways that you do a lot of the common engineering things you see in other companies.
Preparing for this podcast, I was talking to friends and I mentioned your name, and they said, well, the discussion with them originated a question which I'm curious about. In the era of everything is changing by minute, second, and so on and so on, how do you keep a cybersecurity company future-proof and ready for A, B, C, D, E scenarios?
You constantly have to take into account what's changing and change your products based on that. So that is a harsh reality, and it's something I've actually learned going back even before Blackshell. When we were part of the product that we were building was unblocking access to resources that our countries or governments or companies were trying to block. So we were trying to unblock that. And we would unblock it for a week, and then they would block it again, finding another way. So we had to look into it and find a different way to do the same thing, and so on and so forth. So you have to be extremely dynamic in the way that you write things, in the way that you approach problems. You have to account for this. You have to account for the fact that something you're protecting against now might not be the same in 1 year. However, I'm going back to what I said. Most attacks these days are not that sophisticated. So the things that people are using these days, sure, they're using AI to do those attacks, but what AI is doing is the same thing they were doing 5 years ago, 3 years ago. Phishing is the same. They're creating a website that looks familiar to you, and they're buying a domain and they're trying to get you to fall for that. That has not changed. So if you can attack those low-hanging fruits, those are not that dynamic in terms of what's changing or whatnot. Distribution might change. So now you're seeing them on WhatsApp. 5 years ago, it was email. But at the end of the day, they're not really changing that much in the way they approach for most cases. I'd say 80% to 90% of the things. Now, the remaining 10% are the ones I actually find interesting. And those are the ones where you have to put a lot of engineering work and you have to keep up to date. You have to do your certifications. You have to read a lot. We spend so much time reading. It's crazy. So we actually have a newsletter that we send to clients and people. It's free on our website. The way that started out was we were trying to find a way to keep track of what was happening around the world. So that was an internal newsletter that we started for ourselves. and then realized, you know what, we're doing something extremely cool here. Let's share it with other people. And it now became quite popular, but it started out as a way for us to manage information within the company. So yeah, you read up a lot, you try to adapt.
Yeah, that's quite challenging. And again, I don't think you have days when nothing is happening. Like this podcast, we try to cover multiple subjects. And Mihai, I thank you for your patience and to explain so complicated things so simple and in order to be understood by us entrepreneurs who are maybe small and medium-sized enterprises, but also others who are thinking of it will not happen to me. Hereby, AI is helping, in the brackets, of course, to democratize this type of actions, which are not all the time white hat stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Those who are interested in talking to Blackshell and talking to you, how should they reach out for you?
Well, part of our whole image and the way we present ourselves is that we're very approachable. So LinkedIn is one good way of reaching out. Our website has contact forms and emails and everything. But I think the easiest way is just find our team on LinkedIn, send a message, say hi. We're friendly. We're trying to be.
Yes, I can confirm that. Thank you, Mihai Ionescu, dear RACC members, and not only. Thank you for your attention and keep checking out the RACC IT podcast because we have more ones to come. Thank you, Mihai.